Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing well. We're here with the Timeless reading. Welcome. The first card that we have out is Eight of Wands. Interesting. We also have Temperance. And then Knight of Wands. Eight of Wands, it's interesting to see Eight of Wands and to also see Temperance, but can also make sense. Eight of Wands is usually seen as a card that represents speed, something incoming, you going somewhere, things happening quickly, like quite quickly, because Eight of Wands is everything, like all of the energy going in the same direction, and there not being any blockages really that are there. So nothing is in the way. It's like a long stretch of road where there aren't a bunch of twists and turns, and so you can really pick up speed. So this card, direction, moving forward, speed. So that can even mean that you wanted to move quickly, or something was moving quickly, or something was moving direct, like really without there being something that was stopping it before. Having Temperance here can be about needing to adjust to the speed of something. That means that if something starts picking up, this is about having to find balance as that is happening. But I am almost seeing this, at least when it first came out anyway, as wanting to move, and can even be this feeling of, I mean, I don't know if this is you wanting to move quickly or just a situation moving quickly. Having Temperance there can be a things sort of slowing down. So it's like shh, and then things start almost like the gravity isn't as much, is what this feels like to me, having Temperance there. But also too, Temperance is a card of balance, and so it can speak about, if we're going to be going quickly now, you're going to have to make sure that you're ready to balance with the speed of things. If you're sort of riding along and things aren't moving that quickly, it can be easier sometimes to find your sense of balance. If something starts moving, you sort of have to match the energy of the movement. And I wonder, now that I'm sort of sitting within the energy a little bit more, it can actually be about that. So maybe it's less about something being slowed down and more about adjusting. Now we also have Knight of Wands here too, which is also another card about speed. This even feels like two things that are meeting here, where Temperance is, and Temperance is going to be you sort of balancing both of these energies. This can be something really high intensity too. Whenever I see Temperance and Knight of Wands connected with one another, it's about how you may feel like you want to move forward with something. However, if you really look at it, it can feel more impulsive and less thinking about things outside of that situation. And Temperance can be a reminder to give yourself some perspective here. It feels like Knight of Wands almost feels like wanting to be first in line and like running up to be first in line, and Temperance saying, well, you're gonna have to wait a minute. I do feel like you're moving into a direction where there's something that you have to balance. I feel like there's a back and forth with the energy. In some ways I feel like this is about having to balance and make sure that you stay planted on the ground while something is moving quickly. And then also too, it feels like having to balance when things slow down too. It feels like both of those things. And because we have Knight of Wands, that is about moving quickly, but because Knight of Wands is going towards Temperance, it feels like racing somewhere and then having to wait. And then maybe you can race around again and then you have to wait. It feels like this is happening, like there are two, maybe even extremes here within the energy. And all of them are converging where Temperance is. Kind of like Temperance is gravity and everything is moving, or it's some type of magnet and everything is moving towards it. But there's not then the crashing that happens because Temperance is there to make sure that the energies don't do that. Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords is one of my favorite cards in the deck because it speaks about a moment in time where you're seeing what you need to see. There's not stuff hidden, there isn't confusion. Ace of Swords can be a time where if you've been trying to work through something, it's that moment of breakthrough. Ace of Swords is also about there being sort of a new understanding, a fresh perspective where there aren't those cobwebs in front of you. I see Ace of Swords as also being your third eye being clear and your throat chakra being clear too. Ace of Swords too is feeling like there is a breakthrough with the energy, and I'm also seeing Ace of Wands be there too. Again, this thing about, if you look at these, how the energies are all going towards Temperance, moving towards Temperance, moving towards Temperance. And then you see these two energies, the hand going that way, this hand going that way, and then you have an Ace of Swords and an Ace of Wands here. So this feels like clarity being given to something that your energy is going into, something that you're nurturing currently with your motivation and inspiration, and then also feels like an opportunity comes through even when you're at the point of understanding something or like needing that breakthrough. Like right at this point when I feel like I'm crystal clear, now this door opens for me. And so this feels like a double breakthrough that's happening, but because we have, the thing that they have in common is that they're both aces. So both of these things speak about the potential of the energy and all of the possibilities of what can happen, and freshness and newness that we have here of breaking through, passing through a threshold. And then what the difference is that we have air and we also have fire here, but also too, air fuels fire, and so it just makes it bigger. And so this feels like with some type of understanding that you have here, with something that's really making sense, and you finally having this moment, because Ace of Swords can also be like an epiphany that you're having, something that feels even concrete, where that past stuff isn't really holding you back anymore. It's going to really fan the flames here of this Ace of Wands, which is the fire. So I do feel like these things are finally connecting with one another. I'm wondering too if you had been, this feels like an out of the fog moment with Ace of Wands. And when that happens, it does feel like, see how there are clouds here? This is feeling like fog that you're breaking out of. So now you're like, okay, I'm through that now. I can see everything that's all around me. And as soon as you break out of this fog over here, and like here is your awareness, like very clear, nothing getting in the way of it, there's a door right there that's just open, but you couldn't see it before when you were in here, but as soon as you break out of it, you see the door right there. Here's more balancing. These two things that you have, this thing meeting this thing, and then the balancing of both of them. And we also have Temperance, which is like the major arcana version of that. So it feels again like this theme of something coming from here, something coming from here, them sort of meeting, but both of these things going on and having to find your way, having to balance both of these. That can mean too that you have multiple options as well and you're trying to figure out how to manage that. I do feel like they go together more so though. When you break out of the fog and you're standing there and you can finally see all around you, it's like you get to the top of the mountain and you break through, or like the airplane's going through the clouds and you can't see anything, and then it breaks out to the other side. It's that moment of really having a bird's eye view there, an aerial view. And seeing that door in front of you, it feels like there's an adjustment, maybe even to it being there in the first place, but not rushing through it. Because if you just made it from one plane of consciousness to another, from one understanding to another, from feeling cloudy to then feeling clear, and you see something in front of you, it feels like there's something about giving yourself time to adjust as you're transitioning from one space to another space, and making sure that you are keeping the energy balanced still and not toppling over. This feels like not wanting to lose the insight of the Ace of Swords just to move over to the Ace of Wands and then lose your perspective altogether. It feels like you need to keep that perspective. Like we need to keep the Ace of Swords alive, which means that we're keeping this level of understanding and not losing it to the Ace of Wands. Like, how do we get these energies to meet each other and to work together rather than clashing, and then it feels like things fall apart? And that's what this is feeling like. Like, how do I do both of these things? How do I balance both of these things? And again, with this energy of things moving in this direction, but instead of clashing, we have Temperance here to make sure that that doesn't happen. So these energies can actually meet and work together. Yeah, something is definitely over now. Like, you've made your way through. There's an adjustment period happening. I wonder too if that's why we have all of this balancing energy related to moving from one place to another, or a meeting of the energies. Having us have these two aces over here, but I'm just seeing a 10 of Swords coming out, can mean that just as something is beginning, something else is ending, and you can be trying to find balance as both of these things are happening. It feels like instead of something just ending and then new beginning immediately, that they kind of cross each other a little bit. So as the transition is happening, they're still kind of interconnected, and it feels like they're going to sort of separate into their own things, but right now is like the meeting place of the energy, and so you kind of have to do both. So there can be Ten of Swords, there can be a release, there can be a realization, like my mind doesn't need to be there in that anymore. I'm sort of detangling myself from that so I can bring all of my energy into the section of aces that I have over here. And tens speak about that, things being finalized, things being finished, there being acceptance, there can be a letting go of things, there can be if there's any residual stuff, working through those things. And then also too, having these new chapters on the ready. Another card of balance. Something ending. Another card of balance that we have here. See the scales on that? Kind of. What this feels like to me, seeing Ten of Swords and seeing Six of Pentacles next to one another, it feels like, I almost feel like Six of Pentacles is giving context to Ten of Swords, and what this can mean is that if something were not working the way that it works best, if there were an offset of energy, if you felt like I'm giving too much and not getting enough back, or somebody else felt like they were over giving and not getting what they needed, if there was a discrepancy, if there was a lack of compatibility, if there was something going on within the relationship, something going on within the exchange that felt like this isn't fair, it feels like Ten of Swords is indicating that something needed to change, something needed to close, something needed to be finalized and end and finish, in hopes of being able to find that compatibility, being able to find that balance and fairness of an exchange can actually work and nobody needs to feel like they're getting ripped off. It can be something that feels symbiotic, it can be something that feels mutually beneficial. Especially to having Temperance above Six of Pentacles here. This is about how do I make sure that I'm not getting myself into something where I'm gonna feel like I'm being taken advantage of again. More so like taking advantage of yourself, you know, or like I'm not respecting my boundaries. I'm not tuning into and listening to my values, and then having what I'm doing be reflective of that. Can be the things that we get caught up in that don't feel reflective of our values, and then we're not feeling good about being involved in those things because our worth can be very much tied to it, our worth tied to our values. When we're somewhere, just an example of worth and values and those things being connected with one another, if you do something and like a job and you feel like, if I get paid this much, it will allow me to feel like this is enough for me. Like my energy and what I have to give is respected and it's recognized and it's valued. And then we can feel like productive because of that, and we can feel like we are sought after because of that, or even just like valued in general because of that. And the difference between that and getting into a situation where we feel like I'm doing all this work, I'm putting in all of this work, or I'm investing my time and I'm not appreciated. Just an example of how this can be. Temperance feels like it's about you figuring out what situations are you getting into, what exchanges do you get into that feel like they're actually reflective of your values, and which situations do you be in, and it seems like something just ended that is not actually reflective, that's not compatible with your values. And it can be very painful to be in that type of situation because we feel like it's just never enough. Whether it be it's never enough for that person, or it just doesn't feel like it's enough for me. Having Temperance above here shows that it feels like there's not an automatic, I know exactly what the Six of Pentacles looks like for me. And so Temperance is about the process of finding out how to figure that out, how to balance the equation. And that's what's in the midst of happening currently. Temperance shows that this is going to be a process. This is not going to be an overnight thing. This is something that there's going to be a constant figuring out how this works and adjusting the little pieces until it looks like those scales are balanced. A relationship, Two of Cups. But this also has to do with your relationship with yourself. Yes, another person can be involved in this. This can be happening with you and another person, or you and your company, you and something else where there is a relationship. This is also about you with yourself, meaning if there was a separation where your values are one thing or your needs are one thing, and then what's going on in this situation is not reflective of that, we feel split within ourselves. And so this is about how you sort of bring back that connection with your own energy. And in that wholeness, it allows you to enter into spaces that feel like it also balances that simultaneously. It's that same how there's going to be the reflection of what's going on internally for you is what you're going to be seeing reflected in your relationships. And so if there's balance, if there is alignment of values, which means that there's reflection on what my values are, what my needs are, there's recognition of those things, and then making sure that what I'm involving myself in is reflective of that, this thing that I'm understanding, these things that I'm understanding, then you feel like things are balanced within your life, and that, again, you're not, like, things are actually enough for you because it works. So it doesn't feel like things are being taken from me or I'm just taking from this person. It feels more so like this is actually sustainable then. And so you're finding out, basically, you're figuring out how to do that. You're like solving the problem, solving the riddle of this. This can have to do with a specific relationship, but it also is going to impact all of your relationships too. This does feel like a lesson learned here. Like, with this in mind, what happens now? How does this change things? I do almost get this sense of there being this recognition that you have, and it looks like somebody is coming through. I'm getting confirmation of this. This is somebody that's coming through. And this is where I'm seeing Ace of Swords meet that Ace of Wands. You know how I said before how it's like you come out of this fog and you're understanding something that you were like figuring out before but didn't really have that breakthrough until this point. Now there is a grasping that's happening. So you sort of come out of those clouds and you're in a place where you're seeing everything, you're understanding everything. I'm seeing this moment of like absolute clarity that you're having about this situation. As that is happening, so as you're sort of like looking everything over, I'm seeing somebody come through and they're offering you an opportunity, and you're gonna have to figure out, is this thing going to be another repeat of that issue that I just had? Or is this something that's reflective of the energy that I want to move towards now and what I'm doing? So even though this door that's opening in front of you is something that you can go through, it feels like you need to evaluate prior to doing that. Is this something that is actually, I'm going to feel like this is compatible for me and these values of mine that I'm recognizing, that I'm understanding? Or would I just be taking this on without really thinking about it, taking on this opportunity, going through this door, and then it's just going to lead me to more of what just happened? And that really being where the difference is here. Like, you basically get to, there's something that has to be assessed here with this. So there are a couple different options of what could happen. You can say yes to this and it does end up being compatible. You can say yes to it and it doesn't end up being compatible and it's just going to be a repeat. You can say no to it and have, it's really just all going to depend, honestly, on what's going on here with this. And if you deem it as being, is this something that I'm going to sign on for and feel, again, like there's an imbalance there and like something doesn't work, or will it be worth it to me? And having, so that's what that is. Having, I'm seeing 6 of Pentacles be connected with this door that's opening for you. So asking, is this something where I feel like I'm bringing my energy and whatever's on the other side of this is bringing the energy, and that's a relationship that can work? Or is this something where the scales are always going to be imbalanced? And it feels like you don't have to go through that door if you don't want to. Ace of Wands says this is a door and it's here for you if you want to go through it, but you don't have to. Assess this before you do, to make sure I'm recognizing prior to taking this opportunity which path this is going to lead me down. So that means, like, do you need to ask questions about this? Is this stuff that something that you need to figure out before you commit to this or before you go that way? And is it something that you even want to go that way? Can it foster what you're looking for? Or is this something where you're going to just repeat the same situation again and end up back here again? Having Temperance and having King of Swords is about the connection between the connections that you're making, how you're seeing things, and your problem solving, and something that's going to take a little bit of time for you to figure out. Temperance and King of Swords is this, when you carry that Ace of Swords with you, when you carry that clear understanding of things, can you now apply it to a real life situation that's happening? You're taking a concept that you're understanding and now applying it to see if this is a viable opportunity or not, viable for what you want it to be reflective of. I think one of the things that has been a little bit of a barrier for you is you see the door and you go through it and then ask questions later, and then you keep repeating this cycle again and again. And it feels like this time you just went through something. I don't think that you want to have to repeat this type of cycle anymore. And so working with that part of yourself that may see a door, want to run through it before assessing, it feels like that's why these cards of balancing here feels like balancing that part of yourself that may want to just lunge for something without thinking and playing the tape to the end, and then the same thing happens and you're like, why didn't I pause for a moment and think about that? Because it feels even like when you do that and it's not a compatible situation, you leave yourself behind. And it feels like you just have had a breakthrough about how not to do that. Because now I'm seeing you be together with yourself, and this is going to be that time where you either split from yourself again, or you stay together with yourself and you stand by your values. To make sure that this is going to be a worthy thing for you to be involved in, or is it going to be another incompatible situation? Six of Pentacles feels like there is something very specific that I'm looking for when I enter situations. Ace of Wands is going to give you that opportunity to evaluate, is this reflective of that or not? Am I going to, is this a place where I can experience that balance I'm looking to experience, or is it something where that is not an option within this? This is all going to be a process. I'm seeing Sagittarius and I'm seeing Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius. This is about growing and learning and expanding and evaluating, and also that part of you, wherever Sagittarius is within your chart, whatever Jupiter is aspecting within your chart, wherever that is, it can be where you may have a tendency to go head first into something. And yes, it's very great to have that experience, and there's really nothing wrong with it at all. But now can be a time where you can determine what type of experience you'll have. And is this something that you want to go into and have that experience? And it feels like this is giving you insight to see what you'd be signing on for before you sign on for this. Because I don't see, you haven't gone through the door yet, but you see it in front of you, and this is you determining whether it will be reflective of that thing that you want to experience or not. So this is that moment for you. I wonder too if there's a part of you that maybe in order to get away from this thing that just happened, sort of that being something that would motivate you to run towards something without checking it out, to run towards this door, run through this door without checking it out. And there needing to be pause here. And also too, we see this, the almost opposite energies again, where you have Eight of Wands, which is about that movement, but then you have, we start with Eight of Wands and then we end with Four of Pentacles, which is actually about like holding back or not budging or not moving anywhere, and these energies connecting again. So this feels like something that happens that may throw you into some type of extreme if you're not checking in and making sure that it is balanced. Having Page of Wands on the bottom of the deck feels like this is indicating that this is something that there can be a part of you that sort of wants to do this, but you also have to make sure that the other parts of you that you're going to be dragging along with you actually are signing on for this too, or if they're like, no. It's kind of like you have this within you, depending on the energy, you sort of have a council within you of different energies that are motivated by different things. And when you get into a pure enough space with all of them, they're all on the same page. And right now feels like some stuff that's being worked out, some stuff that can even be being disputed currently. And it's all just you with you. And figuring out if this is an opportunity that you want to take, and you're at the point where it feels like you have the knowledge to be able to look at this and assess and evaluate. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I'd like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.